Welcome to my next 100 Season 1 episode review video. Before I get into that, though, pretty important. If you haven't watched the first 3 episodes of the 100 Season 1, it would be my recommendation that you don't watch this detailed review any further. To avoid any potential spoilers and full disclosure, this is a show that I've already watched all the way through. Just wanted to rewatch it and do reviews of it on this channel. So join me on the journey and let's discuss this awesome and amazing show in the comments section. So with that said, this will be the 100 Season 1 Episode 3. The title of this episode is called Earth Kills. And this will be my review reaction recap after just finishing watching the episode. We start with a flashback to a year ago on the Ark. Clark and her father, Jake Griffin, are watching a soccer match from 2001 on a projection along with Wells and his father, Chancellor Jaha, Arthelonis. They joke with each other about the predictable outcome of a game that happened 147 years prior as Abby returns home. She tells Jake that the systems analysis he asked for is ready. Jake checks his watch and excuses himself. Then we go back to our current time. Clark is checking Jasper's pulse after he was speared by the Grounders. She tells Monty to keep an eye on Jasper while she goes to get him some water. Once outside the dropship, she hears a 13-year-old girl, Charlotte, crying out in her sleep and goes to wake her up from her nightmares. Charlotte tells Clark that she sees her floated parents. Clark tells her that her dad was floated too, and she asks Charlotte what got her locked up. Charlotte tells her that she assaulted an art guard who took her parents' things to the redistribution center. Clark points out a bright star in the night sky and tells Charlotte that the Ark up there is something they can move past and the ground is their second chance. Trina and Pascal are wandering around in the woods, having been lost for 2 days, and Pascal promises Trina they'll find a dropship tomorrow when a rumbling sound is heard and a yellow fog starts to envelop them. They start to scream that it burns. Bellamy is teaching Murphy how to throw sharp objects when Atom arrives and tells him that they haven't been able to find any sign of Trina or Pascal. In the background, Jasper's cries of pain echo throughout the camp, and Atom tells Bellamy that it's not helping morale. Bellamy tells Murphy to stay behind while he takes a group hunting. Clark is inspecting Jasper's wound and realizes that the Grounders saved his life by cauterizing the wound. She notices that the wound is infected and worries that he might be septic and tells Wells to hold Jasper down. Octavia enters the lower level of the dropship and invites Adam to join her in the butterfly field, but he ignores her. She storms off to Bellamy's tent and confronts him about what they did to Atom. Bellamy tells her it was because Atom disobeyed him, not because of Octavia. She tells him that the next time he decides to go on a power trip, he needs to leave her out of it. Just then, Jasper's cries turn to screams, and Octavia and Bellamy take off back to the dropship where Clark is trying to cut away Jasper's infected flesh. Bellamy tells Clark she can't save Jasper's life and his screams are making people uncomfortable. Clark tells Bellamy that this is not the Ark and down here every life matters. Bellamy calls Jasper a lost cause and tells Clark if Jasper isn't better by tomorrow, he'll kill Jasper. Bellamy tells Octavia to leave with him, but she refuses. Finn tells Clark that Bellamy happens to be right. Then we go back to our flashback. Abby asks Jake how his discussion with Jaha went. Jake tells her it's definite that the Ark only has a year or two of oxygen left. He can't fix it because it's a system failure and the people have the right to know. Abby tells him he can't let people know because they will panic and asks him to promise her that he will obey the council's orders and keep it quiet, and at the very least for Clark. Abby warns Jake that if he does it, he'll get floated. Clark eavesdrops on the whole conversation. Clark tells Finn that he and Bellamy are wrong and that Jasper is not a lost cause. She takes apart the grounders that had used on Jasper, and Wells recognizes the red plant as seaweed. Clark, Finn, and Wells then leave to go find seaweed. On their hike, Wells tries to discuss their relationship, but Clark refuses. They stumble across an old vehicle buried in the dirt, and Clark tells them that they can look at it later because Jasper can't wait. Bellamy is hunting a boar in the forest and throws an axe towards some movement. narrowly missing Charlotte, who has followed him. The rest of the delinquents chase after the boar, while Bellamy and Adam confront Charlotte. Adam tells her it is dangerous for a little girl outside the camp, and she tells them she is not little. Bellamy hands her a knife and asks if she ever killed something before, telling her she might be good at it. Clark, Wells, and Finn reach the riverbank. Wells points out the red seaweed floating in the water. Finn starts discussing a way to retrieve the seaweed while Clark grabs it. A flock of birds suddenly swarms overhead as a foghorn is heard. They look up into the sky and see a massive yellow storm cell bearing down on them, and Clark tells them to run. Then we go back to our flashback. Clark is distracted while playing chess with Wells, and he asks her what's wrong. She admits to him about how her dad found a problem with the oxygen system, and the council does not want anyone to know, but she thinks she is going to go public anyway. Wells promises that he won't tell anybody. Then back to our current time. Clark, Finn, and Wells see the acid fog and take shelter in an abandoned vehicle while Bellamy and Charlotte make it to a cave. Adam trips and is swallowed by the fog, calling out for Bellamy. At the camp, all of the delinquents are piled into the dropship and close the door. Monty promises Octavia that Bellamy will be fine. Back in the vehicle, Clark finds some whiskey, and Finn finds some whiskey, and he and Clark begin drinking from it. Charlotte is having another one of her nightmares, and Bellamy wakes her up from it. He tells her it doesn't matter what she is scared of. What matters is that she does what she does about it. He tells her to slay her demons when she is awake, and they won't be there when she is asleep. She cannot afford to be weak or afraid, because down on Earth, that means death. He takes the knife he gave her and tells her that when she is scared, she needs to hold on to the knife and say, "Screw you, I'm not afraid." And then Charlotte takes the knife and repeats the phrase that Bellamy taught her. Clark is tipsy from the whiskey and grumpily explains how she can be fun. Wells tells her that she is fun, and then they try to reminisce with her before Clark interrupts him, saying, "Remember the time you betrayed me and got my father executed?" She then goes on to ask him why he and Wells admit he made a mistake, and Clark tells him that she wants an explanation, and Wells says he can't give her one beyond trusting her father. Wells grabs the whiskey from Finn and takes a swig. Everyone is trying to sleep while Jasper moans and groans. Murphy gets up and decides to end it for everyone. Monty climbs up to the third level where Octavia is sitting with Jasper and warns her that Murphy is on his way to kill Jasper. Octavia kicks Murphy down the hatch and they get the door closed on him. Monty sits on top of it while Octavia grabs a pile and wedges it across the hatch, locking Murphy out. Then we have another flashback. Jake is recording his video to the people of the Ark about the air shortage, and Clark asks him if he is really going to disobey the council. Clark tells him she wants to help him, but he tells her that she cannot. Just then, Ark guards burst in and arrest Jake for treason, and Clark promises to find a way to warn the people, and the Ark guards also arrest her. Clark discovers the fog has cleared and they head back to the camp with Clark walking ahead. Finn tells Wells that he knows that Wells is covering something up. Finn later tells Clark that Wells isn't giving her a straight answer about Clark's dad, and he wants to know how sure Clark is that Wells is the one that told what Clark's dad did. Bellamy and Charlotte leave the cave, and Bellamy calls out for Jones and the other delinquents who had made it to the other cave in time, but Adam isn't with them. Charlotte begins screaming when she finds a dying Adam covered in burns from the acid fog and his eyes clouded over. Bellamy crouches down next to him as Adam begins to tell him. Charlotte walks over to Bellamy and hands him her knife, telling him to not be afraid, and Bellamy orders everyone to back to the camp and kneels beside Adam. He holds the knife, trying to work up the courage when he notices Clark arrive. Clark kneels on the other side of Adam and shakes her head at Bellamy. She won't be able to save him. She tells Adam she's going to help him and begins humming to him as she takes the knife from Bellamy's hand. She gently pushes the knife into Adam's carotid artery and continues to hum to him as he expires. Meanwhile, Charlotte observes this, hidden from the view. And then later that night, they return to the camp with Adam's body. Bellamy orders them to get Clark's whatever she needs, as Wells tells Bellamy he'll go dig Adam's grave. Octavia comes running up, and Clark tries to pull her away. Bellamy also tries to stop her, but she pushes past him and sees Adam's body. She storms off, and Bellamy asks Murphy how it went at the camp, and Murphy tells him how he tried to kill Jasper and starts to call Octavia Bellamy's little psycho sister. When Bellamy grabs Murphy threateningly, Murphy clarifies to his little sister and apologizes. Murphy is then left alone and throws his knife in anger, finally successfully embedding it in a tree. Then we go to another flashback on the Ark. Jake is saying goodbye to Abby prior to being floated, telling her there is no choice but to tell the people the truth. Abby tells him Earth is their chance. He hands her his wedding ring and is about to give her his watch for Clark when Clark runs in and they hug. He hands Clark his watch and tells her to keep it for him. Jaha tells him that it is time, and Jake tells Clark he loves her as he walks through the airlock. Clark says, "I love you," back as they close the airlock, and then Jake is floated, Clark's dad. And Clark collapses into her mother's arms, crying. She's not happy with this. Death is always hard. Clark has made, and then back to our current time, Clark has made a tea from the seaweed and is forcing Jasper to drink it. She tells Octavia that she is sorry about Adam, and Octavia says that they will have to get used to people dying, but not Jasper. Clark finds Wells digging Adam's grave and asks him if it was her mother who told his dad. She did not want to believe her father's death was her mother's fault, and this whole time Wells had let her believe it to protect her from that. Clark asks if he can forgive her, and he tells her it already is done, and they hug. Octavia, Murphy, and Finn are passing around the bottle of whiskey when Jasper asks for a sum. They welcome him back, and Clark comes up, telling him that he will have an impressive scar and thanks him for not dying. Wells is outside the camp sitting on the watch when Charlotte approaches him. She tells him she has nightmares every night, but she thinks she has found a way to make them stop. She tells him she is sorry, and then stabs him with a knife in the carotid artery, just like she saw Clark do to Adam. Wells grasps at his throat, and he reaches toward her, and she slices two of his fingertips off as he tumbles down the trench. Charlotte joins him at the bottom of the ditch as he is gurgling and gasping. She tells Wells as he dies that she sees his father every night, and every day she sees him. The only way for her to make the nightmare end is to slay her demons. She then begins to hum as she sits next to Wells's corpse. And that's what ends this episode of The 100. So an interesting episode. We get a reveal that it wasn't actually Wells that told the Chancellor, his father. It was actually her mother, Abby, that told Chancellor Jaha. And, of course, we get the death of Wells in this episode. So, good episode. I'm going to give the score it 7.5 out of 10. The character of the episode is going to be Clark, as well as Wells and Clark's dad, Jake Griffin. So, you've heard everything that I have to say. Now it's your turn. If you're a fan of The 100 and you want to help me out with the YouTube algorithm, please make sure that you smash the like button, share this video with a friend, put this video on any one of your social media platforms. Don't forget to sound off in the comment section about what your thoughts are on this episode of The 100. What would you rate the episode? Who would you choose as characters of the episode? And then last but certainly not least, don't forget to hit that sub button. You're watching the video anyway. Subscribe to the channel. Help me get over 100K subscribers. Yes, I know I set my goals high, but I will achieve them. Join the team, show your damn support, and be a part of something special, and you never know what you're going to see on JDev TV.